Right, I'm going to talk this morning about the mother wound. When I talk about the mother wound, I want to say to you this morning, we are not dishonoring our mothers. This is not about making my mother look bad. This is about my own healing, my own restoration, of restoring what was being broken and getting to a place where I am emotionally healed and I can walk the road. When I talk about the mother wound, some of you may look back at your life and think to yourself, oh well, my mom wasn't that bad, until you get your own children. And you look at your children and you do things differently and you think to yourself, goodness gracious, I didn't know I had a mother wound. Until I see that I behave in a totally different way because I know a little bit more about parenting than my mother. So let's go on this journey of healing our mother wound. When I use the term, the mother wound, it is a term that helps define a lack of parenting by my mother. It could be physical or emotional needs that were unmet. My mom didn't meet them. Now, when I talk about my mother, it could be my biological mother that gave birth to me. It could be my adopted mother. Maybe I was an orphan and I got adopted. Or maybe I got a stepmother. Or if you didn't have a mother and your mother passed away and you had your sister or your aunt or your grandmother who brought you up, that also considers as a mother. Or it could be when you got a little bit older, the effect of your mother-in-law, especially when you were still young, when you got married. And especially if you have to live with your mother-in-law. Because in some cultures, it's common that when you get married, you have to move into your husband's house. So your mother-in-law has a profound effect on you. Now, no matter who you called mother, she held power over your development throughout your life. And you were wounded intentionally or unintentionally by your mother. Because if I look at my own life and I look at my children, sometimes I did things to them that I didn't do intentionally. It was because I didn't know better. But sometimes we also do things intentionally. Now, the first relationship that I have with a human being when I get born is with my mother. So that is my first imprint that's being made on my brain about how a relationship should be. Because when I look at a mother and a baby, you nurture that little baby. You breastfeed that little baby, or you give a bottle. You look into that baby's eyes. You change the nappy. So you have this imprint on your little baby of how a relationship between people should be. So you learn about connection, you learn about trust, and you learn about commitment. And who you need to be to get your needs met. A little baby quickly learns that if I cry, my mother knows she needs to change my nappy or I'm hungry. So you learn some mannerisms or ways to get attention, to get your needs met. Now, when this relationship is out of balance, it's not right. It creates a mother wound. And we see in Colossians 3 verse 21, and I'm reading from the Message translation. It says, parents, we can say, mother, don't come down too hard on your children, or you'll crush their spirits. So in other words, mothers, don't come down too hard on your child because you will crush your child's spirit. Now, this imprint that your mother had on you when you were little doesn't stop when you get out of the house. It affects your whole life. And it affects all your relationships. How you see people, how you interact with people, especially your intimate relationships. In other words, your husband or your wife, your children, the people closest to you. Now, we as people never truly escape our past. We can never truly bury our past because our past affects our present. And if I don't get healing, it will affect my future. And my past creates obstacles and challenges that I have to face every single day. So in other words, if I don't deal with my past and what happened in my past, and specifically my relationship with my mother, it becomes emotional baggage that I carry around. And at some point, it becomes so heavy that I battle to walk forward. I battle to cope with life. It cripples me. So, for me to get better, to go forward more healed, I need to deal with my past. I need to deal with the emotional scars that I got from my mother. I want to tell you what happened to me this morning. Before I came to church, I was busy getting ready. And suddenly, the weirdest thing happened to me. A spirit of fear came over me. I felt immensely fearful, anxious. I felt totally overwhelmed. I didn't know how I will do this morning. Then I got still. I went into prayer. I came against the spirit. And then I was like, God, what was going on here? And I realized the enemy didn't want this message to come out, but I was being a burden bearer. I was feeling what some of you are feeling this morning. You feel anxious. You feel fearful. You feel overwhelmed. You do not know if you've got the strength or the willpower or the ability to deal with your past. But I want to say to you, I've prayed this morning, and I know, yes, you cannot heal yourself, but with God you are able. and He will take your hand. And I want to say to you this morning, you are not alone. There are some people this morning that afterwards, if you feel so crushed and overwhelmed, there are people that will pray for you. And I want to invite you and say, come, go on a journey of inner healing. I had major mother issues, major father issues. When I was still at home, I thought my family was normal. Only afterwards that I realized, oh my goodness, it was a bit dysfunctional. And I had to go on a journey of healing. And my life changed for the better. I and you, we need to deal with the pain associated with my past and my mother issues, so that I will become more whole. It's interesting when you go to the original Hebrew, whole is also holiness. So the more whole I become, the more holy I will become. And God says we need to become holy. And then, when all this baggage comes off me, I will discover who I truly am. You will discover who God created you to be. The real you will come forward. Because at this stage, if you haven't dealt with your mother wounds, you are crippled, fearful, anxious, depressed, you name it. But through healing and deliverance, you can become whole. And then you can celebrate yourself. You can love life. So we haven't got a choice. We have to deal with our past. Now, this mother wound is created in different ways. You can be wounded while you are in your mother's womb and during birth. You can also be wounded by your mother being separated from you, or you were separated from your mother, and a very unhappy relationship with your mother. So there's 4 ways that I'm going to focus on this morning. There can be more, but let's just focus on this 4. Now, wounding in the womb and during birth. There is a whole teaching that I did that will be, it's on our website, and there's some CDs on wounding in the womb and during birth. But if you were conceived out of wedlock, your spirit is fully functioning when you are in your mother's womb. So if you are conceived out of wedlock, and it was difficult circumstances, etc., you will feel, I'm not welcome. I'm rejected. My parents had to get married because of me, so it's my fault. Or you could have been conceived in anger. Maybe your father was angry with your mother, forced himself on her, and you were conceived out of anger. Or in rape, or in incest between a brother and a sister, a father and a daughter, a mother and a son, or adultery. I've dealt with a couple of women being conceived in adultery, raised in a family where her father isn't a real father. You know how much pain this causes you? Conception, when your mother is on drugs, that causes an immense mother wound. Miscarriage, if you are in the womb and there was a miscarriage before you were conceived, or your mother wanted an abortion, that causes a wound. Or it could be that your mother got pregnant at a time when financially they couldn't do it. Or maybe she wanted to divorce your father and now she was stuck with you and now she has to make this marriage work. That causes a mother wound. Or maybe your mother wanted a boy, now you're a girl. Or she wanted a girl and you're a boy. I remember many years ago while I was still at school, there was a boy with me at school. Up until the age of 7, his mother dressed him in little girls' dresses because she wanted a girl. Can you imagine the mother wound coming out of that? Now, let's look at the second reason why a mother wound can happen. It's when a mother is separated from the child. It could be your mother died. She passed away when you were still little. So normally, you will feel very abandoned. She's not there to fight for you. She's not there to care for you. Or it could be that your mother and father got divorced and you ended up living with your father and you felt like your mother didn't want you. Or your mother was very sick and you had to care for her. You had to look after her. Or it could be that your mother had a mental breakdown and she was institutionalized, so she wasn't at home. Maybe your mother was addicted to alcohol or drugs, and she passed out a lot of times. She wasn't there for you because she was maybe too drunk or too high. Poverty can also cause you to lose your mother because now you have to go and live with a family member. Or maybe your mother was so career-orientated. She was overly involved in her career or work. So her career was above your needs. The third reason for a mother wound can be when the child is separated from the mother through the illness of a child. Maybe you were a sick little child and you had to be in hospital for a while. I remember I once worked with a man. He had polio as a child and they lived in the countryside, and he said to me he was dropped off at that stage in Johannesburg in the polio ward, and his parents couldn't come and visit him, and the immense isolation he felt. Or you were born, but you were so weak that they quickly had to take you away and put you in an incubator. So feelings of rejection came in, hospitalization or adoption. Your mother had you out of wedlock. She was still at school. So she gave you away. And your whole life you've been looking and seeking, who am I? Who am I? Maybe there was a lot of domestic violence. And the welfare came. Or the family came and took you away. Or maybe your mother just couldn't look after you. She didn't have the ability. Or it could be that you've Your parents got divorced, and the one moved to Australia or America, and now you're separated from your mother. Now let's come to where most of our pain lies, and that is my unhappy relationship with my mother. When your mother attempted to abort you, you were wounded, even though you may not remember it now. There's deeply in you, in your spirit, lots of wounding. If your mother was emotionally absent, or she was distant and cold, she didn't hug you, she didn't play with you, she didn't kiss you and tickle your tummy, she didn't get into bed at night with you and read you a story, she didn't scratch your back or comb your hair and make silly little jokes with you. When you got in the car after school and you had a horrible day at school, she was so distant and cold, she didn't even pick up that you got hurt, that you were troubled. Because she was in her own world. She was oblivious for your pain, for your struggles. Or it could be that verbally she was abusing you, screaming. That's verbal abuse. Swearing, breaking you down, belittling you, or emotional abuse. That's when she's cold and distant, doesn't care about your emotions. Physical abuse, when she takes a slipper and smacks you right through the face, hitting you, kicking you, or locking you up in the bathroom because you're too much. Maybe your mother was very judgmental and critical. Oh, you can't fight your fights. You're useless. People walk over you. You have to stand up, be brave, stop crying. I'm sure some of you can relate to this. Or your mother was very controlling and manipulative, doubting if you're not doing what she wants you to do. You don't love me. Why do you want to spend time with me? Why do you have to go out with your friends? Playing you off against your father. You're being a ball between them two. Or your mother's mental and emotional distress was so much that you tiptoed in the house. You walked on eggs because you don't want to upset mom because she's going to lose it. Maybe some of you sit here and you think to yourself, my mother doesn't know the real me. She doesn't know my dreams. She doesn't know my hopes. She doesn't even understand or care about my real personality. She's not accepting my personality. She doesn't know my walk with the Lord. She doesn't know what I feel, really feel about something. Or maybe your mother is so overworked. She's so stretched out, stretched thin, exhausted, that she doesn't have energy for you. There's just too much to do. Maybe she juggles more than one job. And in the meantime, you don't receive the intention and love. Or maybe you feel or you see that your mother is actually favoring one child above or over another. She likes my brother more or my sister more. I'm just the one that's coming along. This is another thing that I've come across a couple of times. Jealousy between a mother and a daughter, where the mother is jealous of the daughter because she wants her husband, or she wants her youth, or she wants a house, or she wants the body she has. Or it could be that you feel, you know what? I think my mother never should have gotten children because I'm a burden to her. Or parental inversion. It could be that your father and mother fight. Your father doesn't talk to your mother for 3 months. You end up being your mother's partner, her emotional crutch. She talks to you. You know what happened to me? I was 15 years old. My brother had a mental breakdown. At that time, he was in the army. He went for 3 days into a fetal position, rocking himself. My father was totally absent. I had to climb in the car at 7 o'clock at night when they phoned us and said, you better come. I was my mother's partner. I had to carry the emotional burden of a brother that was diagnosed at that stage with schizophrenia. Every day and in the weekend, I had to climb in the car, listen to my mother, go in with her to the psychiatrist, to the psychologist. At that time, I thought, well, I'm there for my mother. Years later, I discovered that a burden was put on my shoulders that emotionally I was not able to carry. I wasn't my mother's husband. I was a daughter. I was supposed to be handled as a child. When you're 15 and you have to face stuff like this, it breaks something in you. And without you knowing it, a resentment comes into your heart and a passive aggression. And years later, it came out. But what also happened to me, I became a victim. And I had a victim mentality. So my victim mentality meant that I was continually abused, emotionally, verbally, by people. Because I couldn't stand up for myself. I couldn't stand up against my mom and say to her, listen, this is not my job. Neglect is another one. I had a couple of people coming to me and saying, you know what? My mom actually forgot me at school. I sat at that gate with my little suitcase, and my mom just forgot about me. Now, wounds from our mothers can come to us as toddlers, children, teenagers, young adults, or adults. It can come at any time. Wounds from your mother-in-law can also come to you. Now, many mothers, I want you to understand this morning, that many of our mothers, they were unmothered. They didn't learn how to be a proper mother. It's this vicious cycle. They have no idea what a proper mother and child relationship look like, because they've never learned how. They came out of broken families. They come out of dysfunctional homes. And many of the wounds that our mothers pass on to us are wounds what they themselves have experienced. And unfortunately, this affects our relationships and our marriages. And the long-term effects of a mother wound is the following. I had a look at psychology, a couple of psychological articles, psychiatric articles, etc. And they all said the same thing. And I can say to you this morning, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I battled with chronic anxiety and chronic fear. If you weren't nurtured properly and you've got a big mother wound, I can tell you this morning, it's very highly likely that you suffer from chronic anxiety and fear. It's as if it's your partner. It's constant with you. Depression. You don't want to live. Life doesn't make sense. It's difficult to get out of bed. It's this constant thing. Emotional numbing. You switch off. If I don't feel, then I can't hurt. So I don't feel. I'm emotionally numb. And in this process, you become so tired. You've got fatigue. And you battle with a deep insecurity. An aggression. This aggression can be outwardly, verbally, or it can be a passive aggression that you rarely show to other people, but it's there. Substance abuse, to numb the pain, drinking, smoking, whatever drug. And then you end up with health problems. Why? Because if you live with constant fear, constant anxiety, it breaks down your immune system and you easily get sick. Now let's look at signs that you were wounded by your mother. It's when her feelings always came before yours. She made you responsible for her happiness and well-being. So you had to behave the whole time. Because you can't show that you're unhappy. You need to keep her happy. And her needs became before yours. I can't take you to school because I've got my nail appointment. I've got a tea appointment. Sorry, you have to arrange your own transport. Status and image came before your needs. So please, don't make a scene. What will the people think? Put on your happy face. People are coming over. She didn't recognize or respect your boundaries. If you wanted privacy in your room, you had to keep the door open. She went into your closet, looked in your private stuff. She controlled you by using guilt or even money. She demanded your attention. And I think many of you know this one. She gave you the silent treatment. Didn't talk to you. Ignored you. You had to earn her love. And she failed to provide you with affirmation and security. You know what happened to me? In the one sense, I was overpraised, over-affirmed. Many times I thought to myself, goodness gracious, I'm not so wonderful and amazing and what have you. But on the other side, I was broken down. I was told how pathetic I was, not good enough, not clever enough. So it was the seesaw between overly affirmed and then broken down. And I didn't know who I was because it was the seesaw. Another wound is when your mother was overly critical and she compared you to other children. Have you sat at a soccer game, a netball game, a hockey game, a rugby game? Have you watched the parents when their child didn't score a goal? It's like this verbal abuse is like acid coming out on the poor child. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Did you see? That one was excellent, but look at you. So it's this constant comparison. And they don't allow you to have any negative emotions. Make toxic jokes about you. You know how many times people can make a joke and it's actually sarcasm, or it's this knife that they put into you? And then when they see your emotions, it's like, oh, just make a joke. It's not a joke. She competed with you. I once had a lady who got an engagement ring. Her mother looked at the engagement ring. You know what her mother said? Wow, I'm so happy. It's a beautiful ring. Her mother said, it looks like a lucky bucket ring. Can you think, imagine what this did to this girl? That's a wound that's difficult to erase. If you're still scared of your mother and you get nervous when she calls, about 2 weeks ago I had a lady, she's in her 40s, she came to see me, she said to me, I think I've got mother issues. I said, okay, now tell me what's wrong. She said, if she phones and I see it's her face or I see it's her name, I get this knot in my stomach and I feel so anxious. And I'm sure there are some of you that feel like this guy that said, my mom's name in my phone is the she-devil. We laugh. It's like the devil wears Prada on steroids. But we have mothers like that. Let's be honest. Now, what's the implications of a mother wound? You end up with parental inversion, where I told you where it's when you become your mother's substitute husband. I want to tell you something this morning. The moment you go into parental inversion, when you become your mother's companion, her substitute husband, in the spirit realm, you are doing emotional incest. Now you look at me and say, wow, that's a bit harsh. No. Because you are taking the place of her husband. It's not supposed to be your place. You are not supposed to be your mother's confidant. Her husband needs to be. Perfectionism. I mastered. I've got honors in perfectionism. Why? Because my mother was like that. Everything had to be clean, perfect. And then God took me on a journey where He did some stuff to me where I couldn't even try to be perfect because it didn't work. You've got a weak sense of identity, of who you truly are. And there's this separation anxiety that leads to striving, passivity, and depression. And now, very interesting. If you've got a mother like that, deep down in your heart, you have a very low idea of women. Let me explain. If you're a woman, deep down you feel like, you know what, we're not much worth. Men, they are the strong ones. They have everything. Their word counts. If you're a man, you think, it's just a woman. I'm not listening to you. It's just a woman. And then you build this fantasy image of yourself. I played in front of the mirror. Roles, let me tell you. I don't like to be in the spotlight, but when I was a child, I had fantasy dreams of being someone else. Why? Because of my mother wounds. And you frequently and intensely criticize and judge yourself. And this, because of this, 3 demons come in. Rejection, self-rejection, I hate myself, I don't like myself, and fear of rejection. You know how much deliverance I had to get? I walked a journey of a couple of years to deal with my pain, to deal with my demons. I had a lot of demons. And I am a totally different person. And let me tell you, if God gives me a dream or I notice something, I say, come pray for me. I want to get deliverance. You struggle with creating and maintaining healthy boundaries. And you gravitate towards a place where you get into relationships and you become the caregiver. You care. You mother someone because you never received it. And you end up with addictive, emotional, and romantic dependencies. Now, very interesting story. What also happened if you've got a mother wound? You have an unhealthy dependency on women. Now, if you're a man, you are going to depend so much on your wife or your girlfriend. She needs to be the strong one. She needs to be the caregiver. She needs to be the one that's been the strong one in the family. If you're a woman, you tend to make friendships with other women. But it's an unhealthy codependency. It's not a healthy relationship. And therefore, many times when a daughter comes out of a place where she received a lot of mother wounds, she confuses her sexuality and she thinks she's lesbian. She thinks she doesn't like men. Therefore, she thinks she likes ladies. Why? Because deep down, she's actually looking for a mother. She's looking for the emotional nurturing, the emotional friendship. Therefore, many girls, when they get a mother figure that nurture them, that gives them emotional nurture, they aren't lesbian anymore. They marry and they get children. It's amazing. Now, the mother wound can show up in a lady, lack of love for your own body. You don't like yourself. You shrinking yourself to be loved, so you will change your personality in order for someone else to love you. And you believe that your feelings are bad. And I was a master in this, avoiding conflict to keep the peace. Even if I was unhappy, I would keep my mouth shut because I just want peace. I don't want to rock the boat. Struggling to make and maintain boundaries, dismissing your own pain is not too bad. Feeling responsible for your mother's happiness. And the persistent sense that, you know what, I'm too much. People can't handle me, I'm too much. Now, okay, let's look at if I've got a mother wound and I'm a man. What happens? My relationship with women is very difficult. I need them, but I'm a bit wary. And then I can be aggressive or passive-aggressive. And I either detach or remain in the toxic grip of a sinful alliance with my mother. You know, it's so interesting. You actually, deep down, you feel you hate your mother. You don't like her. But it's as if you can't escape her grip on you. It's as if she controls you and regulates you, and everything you do is somehow you want to please her. And you make a lot of life's decisions, important decisions, based on your mother's approval. And then you shut down emotionally. And you just become numb. And you've got overwhelming feelings of sadness, disappointment. You feel lost. And this can be masked by anger. But deep down in your heart, you feel sad, disappointed, and lost. And then you become depressed. And a lot of men end up as adults and they self-medicate. They self-soothe by alcohol, drugs, gambling, food, meaningless relationship. They go from the one woman to the next woman. They have lots of sex with lots of different women in an effort to fill this emptiness. Because this void is on the inside. And their relationship, it's difficult. They battle. And they cannot trust someone to be there for them emotionally. Even their wives, they battle. And they find fault in their current partner. But now let's get to the good news. I think I've overwhelmed you with all the wounds. Let's get to the good news. How do I address my mother wound? Okay, I've seen now I've got a mother wound, so now what do I do? First of all, I need to see. I need to know. I need to recognize. Okay, I've got a mother wound. I've got a couple of mother wounds. And yes, I can see where it affected my life and my relationships. In other words, I get rid of denial. Then, the second step is the need to feel and grieve. It's okay to feel angry, to feel sad. It's okay to feel cheated. It's okay to grieve that your mother wasn't there for you. It's okay to look at other people and say, you know what? I actually had a dysfunctional mother relationship. Then, ask Jesus to take you back to specific memories. This is not a quick fix. It will take some time. Invite him into the memories. Ask him, Jesus, take me back to memories where this wound was created. Then, when you close your eyes and Jesus takes you back to that memory, ask him to give you the emotions in that memory. Then, give that pain to Jesus. And I want to say to you, I walked a very long time with shame because I thought something was wrong with me. Because why do I had such a bad childhood? Definitely something was wrong with me. So give Jesus that shame. Admit, I feel shameful because now look, I'm a mess. Then I want to say to you this morning, to forgive your mother will bring a profound healing power. And I want to say to you, if you've forgiven your mother, then start reading your Bible. Google identity verses. Who am I in Jesus Christ? Who did God created me to be? Now, it will take courage to face your wounds. It will take courage to trust God to heal your wounds. It will take courage to trust someone else to take your hand and walk this road with you. Because I want to say to you this morning, I was not able to walk this road by myself. I was too broken. And if you've got wounds like this, it's difficult to walk this by yourself, to do this by yourself. Get someone to help you. Trust that one to see the good, the bad, the ugly of who you are. The Lord says in Deuteronomy 31 verse 6, be strong, be courageous. Do not be afraid of them. For the Lord your God is with you. He will never fail you nor forsake you. The Lord will never reject you. He will never fail you. He will never give you a cold shoulder. The need to feel and grieve your losses. Psalm 27 verse 10 in the New American Standard Bible says, "For my father and mother forsaken me." That have forsaken can be even emotionally. But the Lord will take me up. The Lord will take me into his arms. He will never forsake me. I also want to say to you, it's not your job to change your mother. You will not be able to change her. Only God can change her. If your mother is old, I want to say to you this morning, the likelihood of her changing is very slim. So accept the reality that, okay, I've got a difficult mom. Period. It's not your job to change her. Your job is to forgive her. Grieve the death of your expectations and your dreams that you have of an ideal mother. Allow God to reparent you. I had someone that wasn't allowed to have pets as a child. And then as an adult, God gave this person a dog. And God used that little doggy to reparent that person, to give that person unconditional love and acceptance. God sometimes reparent us when we are adults because we missed out on things that our parents didn't give us or do. And then God gives us the chance to do it. And then ask Jesus to take you back to those specific moments and places and feel the emotions. Call it what it is: anger, hopelessness, shame, abandonment. Why? Listen, I want to tell you how it works in the spirit realm. If you've got a wound, you built a fortress. Every feeling is like a brick. When you acknowledge and repent of every feeling, you break down that stronghold in your life. You break down that wound, brick by brick. You have to call it. Don't do a generalized prayer. Please don't do it. Call it by its name, word for word, emotion for emotion. That's how you get healing. Then release those painful memories to Jesus. Ask it to take it away, to heal your heart, to restore your heart, to replace it with his truth and love. And he will take it away. I can't tell you how he's going to do it, because God works differently with every single one. He knows your personality. Then break the shock and trauma, because you received trauma. You received shock. Then release the shame. Ask God to take it away. And then take a jacket. Do a prophetic act. Take off that jacket and say to the Lord, Lord, I take this jacket, this mantle of shame, I take it off. And I throw it into your fire. I'm not walking in the shame anymore. The Lord says in Isaiah 54 verse 4, fear not, you will no longer live in shame. The shame of your youth. In the message, it says, don't be afraid. You're not going to be embarrassed. Don't hold back. You're not going to come up short. You'll forget all about the humiliations of your youth. Let me tell you, I was in high school. Those days, standard 8, grade 10. Got my dress on. My father was dropping me off at the gate of the school. And my father reversed right in front of the bus, and he bumped me. And then instead of stopping, he bumped me a second time. And every single one of the kids in the school bus saw it. I was so embarrassed. I was humiliated. God says, all those humiliations, all those embarrassments, if you give it to Him, He will restore your pain. He will restore your dignity. Forgive your mother. Now, I'm going to give you a secret this morning. Tell God what your mother did. There may be 40 memories, 50 memories. Every single memory you tell God, God, this is what my mother did. This is how it made me feel. And now I choose with my will to forgive her. I want to say to you, some pain will be easily taken away. You can forgive her and you feel 100%. Other pain, you have to forgive, and you have to forgive, and you have to forgive, and you have to forgive. If it says 70 times 7, it means the same thing. Sometimes you need to forgive her 70 times. Let go of the resentment, the anger, the bitterness. Because let's face it, a mother wound causes bitterness. It causes resentment. And let Jesus transform you with His love. Strengthen yourself in Jesus. Find out, who am I really? What's my true identity? Ask Jesus to reveal to you who you truly are. Ask Him to affirm your sense of being and your worth. For many years, I felt so unworthy. I battled with unworthiness. And help Him. Ask Him, Jesus, help me to understand what is my calling, purpose, and destiny. What am I created for? And as you connect with Jesus' profound love, the need for other stuff and other attachments reduces. And it changes your view of relationships. And it even changes your view of your mother. You get compassion. And you will grow emotionally and spiritually. So Lord, I want to come today and I want to say thank you that I know that I have experiential knowledge of your healing power of a mother wound. That you healed me and restored me. And I pray in this morning that you will touch each and every one that listens to this. Lord, that they will also be healed. That they will intimately know your restorational power and your unconditional love for them. That you will restore them, spirit, soul, and body. That you will give them a clear identity of who they are in you. And Lord, that you will take away the shame and the unworthiness and the rejection. And I praise you, Jesus, that we are not alone, that you've given us your Spirit that's our comforter and helper. And I want to say, Lord, give us memories to deal with. And give us your courage and boldness to pursue healing. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.